Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Next Left Turn. I'm Josh Edwards. Aaron, the Cats man, is with me again tonight. He's mobile tonight. I'm in the studio. I got me a new hat for the NASCAR season. I thought it was appropriate. As you can see, Aaron's laughing at me already. Man, good race yesterday. Miami was fun, a little different than normal. There was some actual strategy. We saw some green flag pit stops, not a lot of cautions. What was your overall take on the race, man?
So I thought it was a really good race. As a NASCAR purist, 4 cautions, I will take that all day, any day of the week. And there was one strategy I was very interested in, and it was with Carson Hocevar. Thought that
Yeah.
was interesting what he was doing, and it seemed to work until it didn't. But we'll talk about that later. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty dominant race by, I guess, Hendrick as a whole, if you want to say it like that.
I mean, Hendrick obviously had a good day, 1-2 finish. Toyota had an excellent day, finishing 3, 4, 5, and having four in the top 10. Ford only got two cars up into the top 10. So Ford definitely is going to have some work to do with this track come fall. But we'll see what happens there. Let's get into it in stage one. So Bowman and Barry are on the pole. Again, another Hendrix, Penske up front, drag off to start the race. I mean, is this what we're going to see? Penske qualifies, you know, typically well every week. They're either always up front or they're lagging behind everybody. They don't ever seem to be in the middle. Hendrix always has a car up there. JGR seems to typically have a car up there. But I mean, it seems like it's Hendrix and Penske a lot.
So remember, we talked about this last year, and it always seemed like a Hendrick Penske type, and then all of a sudden, all these wild cards were starting to come in. So I actually think this is a different year, just because you're seeing drivers like Ryan Preece, I guess a little bit like a Riley Herbst, kind of depending on the track. I'm gonna say Josh Berry, just because obviously it is a Penske adjacent, but it's still like a Ford. But like just kind of
Right.
drivers like this are kind of coming into their own. So I feel like going down the stretch, I think it won't just be the dominant Hendrick and or Penske or JGR. But what's interesting with Penske though is what they have 645 laps led or something like that with these speedways, and they don't have a win for it. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a
So,
while.
so
I don't know. While we're here talking, before we okay, I know I ran the logo for stage one, but before we get there, let's talk about Josh Berry for just a moment. Okay, he's got his first win, it's knocked out. That pressure's off. We saw he was a good racer when he filled in part time. We saw he could be consistently above average as a full time driver with Stewart Haas. Now he's with Wood Brothers. Let's just call it what it is, the Penske setup underneath that car, or at least a partial Penske setup underneath that car. And he's already won a race. Are we going to see a superstar born late in his career because he got a late start because now he's on a team adjacent to a powerhouse?
So I did talk about this last week when he did win. Check that out also on Friday Sports Network. Is there was only one guy who really believed in him. That was Dale Jr. And he found him in iRacing. So the good thing about I think with Josh Berry is before he became like a driver, he learned everything he needed to about the cars. So I think that kind of gives him an advantage. Also, too, Dale Jr. has been praising this guy ever since he was with JRM Motorsports
Right.
um, for the few years before Hendrick got the call because of Chase Elliott when he wanted to go snowboarding in Colorado and broke his foot. So if Dale Jr. puts a stamp of approval on this guy, I believe in him. And yeah, I do believe he is a late bloomer. He's only, I think he's 34, but it just shows that if the Wood Brothers have a competent driver, I'm not saying Harrison Burton isn't, I just don't think he was ready. When I have a confident driver like this, anything can happen because he is really dominating with this Ford 21 car.
He's doing stuff with the Wood Brothers cars we haven't seen in decades. I
Absolutely.
mean, since I was a child, since you were a child.
Yeah.
That was the last time Woods Brothers looked like a competitive team week in and week out. Josh Berry arrives, and all of a sudden, that Woods Brothers car is somebody you're looking for in the top 10, not somewhere between 17th and 30th every week.
Yeah. I mean, the closest
It's
was
a
Ryan
different
Blaney.
ball game. Huh?
I mean, the closest was like Ryan Blaney for our time, if you want to think about it, with the 21 car. But even he had some problems.
Yeah. And that's funny, too, because Blaney was there and then he ended up with Penske.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, and what I tell you last year, I wanted, and I rephrase, I didn't want, but if Penske was going to make a change, I was preferring it be Cindric out and go pick up Barry and bring him over. That's what I wanted. And it worked out better for me because Cindric looks the best he's looked all year at Penske. And Barry's killing it over at Wood Brothers. So I'm like, the four guys I'm good right now. Like I need the W. Thankfully Josh got one. But so I wanted to sidetrack on that because we didn't get to be here last week and I got to watch most of the show. I know you touched on it. I couldn't remember everything you said. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of review that. My apologies. But green flag drops. It's Josh Berry and Alex Bowman up front, like we said. We got 267 laps around this 1.5 mile track, and I'm not gonna say it was a barn burner by any chance, but the race moved fairly quickly. There's not a whole lot of action. Bowman gets cleared in turn one. The bottom of the track just took off better on restarts all day. At least that was the one thing I noticed. So it was really clear that every time. I don't think the outside did they win any of the restarts?
not that I'm aware of. And if it is, there would have been a certain driver, but I'm pretty sure the inside took most of it.
Okay, cool. So that's what I thought. But Bowman ends up getting the lead. Cole Custer nearly wrecks on the opening lap, but he ends up saving it. We move on. Blaney, who was slow in practice, didn't have the car set up correctly. They just weren't there. He was a rocket ship. Dude was moving. He was moving through dirty air. He was moving with clean air. He wasn't really having issues with anybody early in the race. I mean, that's really what I saw, Aaron. And I know I missed a few of the opening laps and a little bit of the stage one. So am I wrong here? Because that's kind of what it looked like in the bits I caught and seen.
Nah, you're pretty much on point. I mean, it was really the Ryan Blaney show in the first stage, anyways. Like he had a system. He knew exactly what he was doing in Miami. The only thing I was concerned about in the first stage was Kyle Larson just riding that wall most of the most of the first stage. He
I
had
think
to
he
have done
intended
it.
to paint the thing.
Yeah, he probably did it between 7 to 10 times, if I'm right, in the first stage. So that was that was a little weird considering he ran trucks, one truck series, and then raced in Xfinity. I think he finished fourth or fifth, but leading 132 laps. So I thought that was just interesting that he was riding that wall hardcore. And then another favorite, Tyler Reddick, was having a very rough time, I think, in that first
Yes.
stage. He was complaining that he had some car problems. His crew chief was just like, all right, just keep going. It doesn't seem too bad. But that's another favorite that I thought was going to have a nice race, and he was just kind of battling around with like the teens from like 11 to 15 on. But yeah, the first stage was just the Ryan Blaney show, so I knew you were pretty happy about that.
Oh yeah, man, I was thrilled. Well, I mean, at the end of the stage one, I was super happy. I mean, we had our first full green flag pit cycle of the season in stage one. That we had a first. This late in the season, we finally got a full set of green flag pit cycle going through. Blaney started it. Blaney led it coming back, and so it was Blaney and Bowman after the cycle finished. The Superman at the beginning of the season, Christopher Bell ends up just losing it out of turn 4. He spins out. Caution comes out. This is the only caution of stage 1. We get into there's nothing really happens there in that caution. We get to the restart. It's Bowman and Blaney, and Bowman clears Blaney right off the bat. And then Blaney cuts down deep, and this is where Blaney cut him deep in turn one and took the lead away, took it right back, right? This is
Pretty
how
much.
they ended stage one, and then Blaney was gone at the end of stage one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, that's what I thought. I was trying to remember the cycle there. So we get to the end of stage one. Blaney gets the win. Bowman gets second. Chase Briscoe third. Kyle Larson fourth. Cindric gets fifth. Again, he's having a good season. He hasn't got a W yet, but he's been up. I mean, his stage points are got to be up there. William Byron sixth. AJ Allmendinger seventh. Nice, strong. And he was predicted to have a good day before the race. Josh Berry in eighth. Noah Gragson ninth. And Joey Logano in 10th. I mean, that stage one was really pretty simple, straightforward. Not a lot going on, right?
Yeah, nothing. It was, like I said, it was the Ryan Blaney show. And
So,
Kyle Larson just riding that wall.
He was, like I said, man, he was painting that thing.
From what the crew was talking about, the crew chief, is that I guess he was just really tight. So when he was making those turns, he was just more or less going into the wall. But we've seen it even when he was with Chip Ganassi, is that he would ride that high at Miami, but he would never get into the wall like that. So I was just so when I heard that he was getting tight, I was like, okay, well that's making a lot of sense, because I have no idea why he just wants to go super high and just ride it.
I think it's his dirt. I think it's his dirt racing roots. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. And
I can see that.
Somebody tell me if you think that's an absolutely asinine idea. I mean, it's the only thing I can think of. And so I know it sounds asinine and it's crazy. And if it makes sense, somebody tell me yes, it does. Or if it's absolute doesn't, then please correct me. But that's the only thing I can think of how he did that the whole race and maintained and never really lost control of the car. So I mean, he's Kyle Larson is, for me, is what Jeff Gordon was when Jeff Gordon hit the scene. That's the closest comparison, because he does things different that you're not used to seeing out of somebody that young. I know he's not that young anymore, but he's been doing it his whole career.
I mean, 32 is kind of young for NASCAR world, if you think about it.
God, he's that old? I thought he was a little younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so we only got to deal with him for, what, another 10 to 13 years?
Maybe. You never know. He could be like a Mark Martin.
Yeah, but even Mark wasn't competitive at the end. He still put on a good show, but he wasn't competitive. All right, well, let's get into stage two. So as we're getting into stage two, obviously we're going to get some pit stops. Blaney leads down the cars down pit lane, and as everything was in the first stage, Bowman wins the race off pit lane. But here's your strategy you mentioned earlier in the race. Carson Hocevar stays out, picks up position. You thought it was odd. I thought it was odd. Did it feel like to you that it was going to work for a little while?
Honestly, no. Just because all the leaders pretty much got fresh tires, whereas Carson Hocevar still has old tires from, I believe he did pit in the green pit in the first stage. So I was like, okay, kind of makes sense. But I think he was just trying to get track position and get kind of high in the I'll say standings, even though it's really not. But yeah, I figured he was just gonna get go back down like the 20s and then pit. Like, I think they were just trying to see what they were gonna do, and if it was gonna work, just keep him out there. If it looked like crap, they're like, all right, just come and pit. So that's kind of what I thought, and then it did work out. He was first for a little bit. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 laps, but it worked for a bit, which I was really surprised he was hanging around top 10.
So, yeah, we get through that. Bowman ends up taking the lead shortly into stage two. And we get to lap 95, and Blaney has got to run on Bowman. And this is where you're just like, Blaney was so close last year and then had an issue at the end. He's been good at this track his whole career. But, you can feel he's on the precipice of getting there, especially at the start of stage two. He just kind of picked up where he left off. Blaney clears Bowman in going into turn 3, and then he's gone to the lead. And then it's again, we're kind of just back to the Blaney show. Penske's just rolling. Daniel Suarez on lap 126 spins off of turn 4. He spins into pit lane, right?
Yeah, but he recovers, so it's not. I believe they didn't throw the caution out on that because
there was no caution there, but he literally spins off 4 into pit lane. He gets it turned back around. So yeah, no caution. Race continues. We're nearing lap 137, 138, and the lead that Blaney has on Byron at this point is nearing 3 seconds. He's really putting in the work, and it looks like this is going to be a Penske day. It looks like Penske's finally going to get a win after being up front and being so consistent all stages all season, and just getting obliterated in stage 3 this year. With about 7 laps to go in stage 2, at this point Blaney has lost some steam, and Byron and Hamlin are actually coming up, and they're on pressure tires. Blaney was stretching it out, and Blaney's at this point is caught up in traffic. They end up Hamlin gets a little bit into Byron, slides him up, just getting a little nudge. Right? Would you say it was a clean move?
Yeah, it's pretty clean.
I thought it was pretty clean. I mean, it was traditional old school. I mean, it wasn't nasty or. To me, it seemed completely valid, fair, and was within reason. Let's just put it that way. So Hamlin does something Hamlin's very good at. He gives Byron a little bump, and he takes second away as they are cutting in and out of traffic. With 3 laps left, I think it was, Hamlin slides under Blaney, and he ends up taking the lead going into turn 1 or coming out of turn 2. And Hamlin ends up getting the stage win for stage 2. So the results for stage 2, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson second, Blaney third. So Blaney really fell off there at the very end because the tires are just so much older. 4th was William Byron. 5th was Bubba Wallace. 6th, Alex Bowman. 7th, Austin Cindric. 8th was Chase Elliott. 9th, Carson Hocevar. And Tyler Reddick was in 10th. So it's pretty typical field up front at this point for the race. Not a lot of crazy names. Hocevar still up there. I thought Bubba had a legit chance at this race, man. I really did. The way he was driving, he was clean. He was making good moves through the field. He was being patient when he needed to be. I thought he had a beat on this race, especially once Blaney's engine blew.
Yeah. I mean, Bubba Wallace has been so locked in this season. It's kind of scary. And I wonder if it's because he has a kid now, that even if he does have bad races, at least he can go home to his son and his wife. So maybe like a switch just turned on for Bubba Wallace. I was thinking maybe he was driving for his life or his car, I guess, but it doesn't seem like the case. It actually seems like he's finally got a grasp of what he's supposed to do for 2311. But also in stage 2, there's a lot. Again, what happened last week happened a little bit this week. We got some drivers turning around up in the pits. No, Josh Berry, which we had praise for in the beginning of the show, had a boneheaded move, wasn't really paying attention. We had 3 to 4 wide at one point in the pits. We all know Miami's tight, so you really need to look when you take the turn out. So, Josh Berry, Joe Logano did a little do-si-do. And apparently that's a legal move in NASCAR again, even though we had that controversy with Seabell last week with his tires. So from what I understand and saw, that it was a legal move in NASCAR, so that was just quite interesting. But yeah, other than that excitement, nothing too much in the second stage.
I forgot that was stage 2. I thought that was stage. I couldn't remember where it was at. I didn't have it in my notes. I just knew we were going to talk about it. So now we're going to the longest stage. We're going into stage 3. It's 100, and it's fast. It was a very quick 100 laps. I felt. I didn't feel like it took a long time.
No, not at all. Again, there was only like one caution, I believe, and that was probably in the beginning. Well, that's not beginning, like beginning-ish middle. That was pretty much it.
So we got a comment in. So the Dime Drawer 4, JGR signed Lou Skunt to a development deal. Some saying he's the next Kyle Larson.
I did not hear about this
Well,
today.
Dime Drawer, I appreciate this comment because I haven't heard about this guy at all. Lou Skunt. So yeah, we're gonna look him up, and I definitely want to see what he is. And I'm assuming he's a young man. If you're here, man, go ahead and throw us any information you got on. If you're still in the chat. If you're not, we will go look him up. And then, Aaron, this is your assignment next week. You're going to tell us about the new next Kyle Larson for JGR. How's that sound? How's that sound, everybody? Maybe he'll do a short midweek and give it to you. Who knows?
Next
pressure,
Kyle
man.
Larson. We don't need any more of those. We're good.
I mean, I take that skill level all day long. But again, thanks so much, Dime, for dropping in. We appreciate the comment. It's something for us to look up and do a little more research, give you guys better information. So we head into stage 3. Hamlin gets to lead the field down to pit lane, and lo and behold, another Hendrix car decides to win the race off pit lane, and that's Kyle Larson. And at this point, we get more contact in the pits between Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. Elliott actually ends up getting a penalty here. He has to drop to the rear of the pit because he had an entry violation. So when we start stage 3, Chase is all the way in the back. I'm sure you were upset about that. How did you feel?
It's 2 weeks in a row that's happened. 2 weeks in a row. And he pulls it's my bad, guys. But then it doesn't really make any sense because it wasn't like he maliciously came in too fast in the pit road or exited the pit road too fast. It was just like I was more confused mad than mad at Chase Elliott because it just didn't make any sense.
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised the penalty even got applied. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't speeding, right? It was because of the contact.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why I was surprised the penalty. Yeah, so I mean,
they tried to appeal it, but NASCAR said they didn't care. This is their decision. That's what they're doing.
They've been like that a lot this year.
Facts.
So I mean, it's definitely the NASCAR show. Let's not be. It's just like the NFL, the No Fun League.
No one's above the law at NASCAR.
Yeah. So even if our law is wrong, you're still above it, and we're still right. That's what it is. So that all happens. Larson and Hamlin, they're actually side by side. So the inside lane didn't get the big dig off the get-go for stage 3. I guess we both forgot about that because Larson and Hamlin were side by side going into turn 1. And then Larson finally clears Hamlin coming off turn 2, head down the backstretch with 90 laps left. This is when Wallace gets up front and takes Larson.
Yep.
There's 90 laps left, right? Yeah. So and this is where I was like, all right, Bubba's moving. I was like, he's ran consistent all day. He's been there. He's due for a win at this point. He has been driving well, and I'm like, Bubba's in this. He could be a problem for Blaney. He has an opportunity to win. And shortly thereafter,
it happened.
The Blaney show comes to a fiery, smoky end as Ryan Blaney blows his second motor of the season. We haven't seen a motor blow like that in probably 15, 20 years.
Seems about right.
I mean, I have not seen a NASCAR motor blow like that since I was a kid. When you see somebody blow a motor every single week and you knew what it was as soon as all the smoke went up.
The closest for me was Greg Biffle, but he never smoked it like that.
I mean, that was just ridiculous. But that's the second engine, and I mean, he blew up in Phoenix too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Penske may have some engine issues. I don't know what's going on, or somebody's sabotaging them.
So the Blaney lovers were already going into their bathtub with toasters. They're ready to go.
The problem is he's still getting stage points he's still there.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going away. So he's doing what he needs to do. He's doing what a Penske guy does every year. They do what they have to do to be there at the end, and they get some win in the middle of the season when they need it. So Blaney ends up blowing up, and he's in third place at the time. He's not leading the race, but he's still, he's been the dominant car all day. The caution comes out here. No major action for the caution. But there's a little bit of action for this restart. We go as soon as the green flag gets dropped, it's 3 wide into turn 1. What I saw and what I thought I heard was Noah Gragson missed a shift, and that caused everybody to fan out. Is that this restart?
I believe so, yeah, because
I
that
thought
was
it
the
was
last
this restart.
that was the last caution. Yeah, that was the last
Yeah,
caution.
so yeah, I thought that was it. So Graskin, who's been up there all day, I mean, he's had a really good race. But yeah, he misses a shift on the restart, and cars are 3 pushing 4 wide going into turn 1, and that's not going to work. Everybody is smart about it, handles it with respect and care for the insane situation it was, and everybody gets through it. At this point, it's Larson and Bowman, and Wallace is still in the mix at this point, I would say.
The problem with Bubba going down this stretch is he was leading it for a while, and then Kyle Larson, man, he was creeping up every single lap. So I think at one point I saw it was like 0.78 seconds per lap that he was catching up on Bubba, because it was just like at one point it was 1.17 seconds for Larson, then went down to like 1.10, 1.5, 1.2, and he was creeping up within like every lap, and Bubba Wallace wasn't really staying low. He kept going to that like middle high range, like what Larson was doing, and that just kind of ended up being Bubba's downfall, which, I mean, he still finished great, but that was just his downfall of not winning the race.
Right. So, I mean, I felt like there was an opportunity. I knew once Larson got up there, it was going to be a tough. I knew it was tough, even with him painting the walls the way he was. But I knew Bowman had a good car, but I thought maybe Bubba was going to get there this time. But like you were saying, he's just taking down the time. Bowman actually gets through Bubba first, right?
Yep.
And then Larson comes through later. Yeah, so yeah, because it's Bowman gets by first, and it's 15 laps until Larson gets to Wallace, and then Larson just chases down Bowman. I mean, it's in a matter of 4 or 5 laps, he cut the lead down to a second, and then he. Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. Long last 36 hours.
The problem with Bowman in this situation is it's getting closer. I believe there was 7 or 5 laps left. Bowman does like the boneheaded move, and he gets high with Larson because he's getting scared, and he hits into the rail, which causes Larson to go to the bottom. What you talked about earlier, the bottom and the restarts. If you're at the bottom, you could just take on over the lead. And what did Larson do? He dropped down, got to the bottom, boom. If Bowman didn't do that hiccup, Bowman had it. And you can see it in Jeff Gordon's eyes, his face. He was like, why? Because he was in the Ally Bank, the tent. And he just was like, why, Bowman? Why?
I mean, Bowman won a race last year because of that. Remember Chicago?
Oh yeah, who can't forget?
Because Reddick was chasing him. I think it was Reddick was chasing him down. And it was right there, and then Reddick clipped a corner, and Bowman was gone. Well, Bowman does it this time. He tries to paint the wall like Larson's been doing all race, and he gets a little too much into it, like Aaron said. And Larson just jetted to the bottom, took off, and was gone. That was it. It was over. Kyle Larson with the W. Hendrix 1-2 finish. Toyota goes 3, 4, 5. So it's Larson, Bowman, Wallace. Hold on.
The problem I also had too with how this went down was the Fox announcers, like Harvick, Mike Joy, and Clint Boyer, they were not like as excited as you thought it was going to be when this situation happened, when the passing of Larson with Bowman, or even with Bubba dropping down like that. Like nothing, like it was kind of lame, to be honest. Like,
well, you didn't.
like the NBC crew at least will do that. It just was very weird.
But the problem is Bowman hit the wall and blew it up. Now, if Bowman wouldn't have hit the wall, we would have gotten that excitement. We would have gotten the big finish. But we didn't
Still
get it because
though,
Bowman screwed the pooch. You can't blame the
eh,
announcers for that. It was very anticlimactic at that point. Like, what are they
eh.
supposed to do? They were set up for it. This Larson is creeping in. There's 8 laps to go. Like, this is going to be an exciting finish, and all of a sudden Bowman touches the wall and Larson's gone. You can't make that exciting. Come on, Aaron. Like that was a cheap dig I saw. I saw that online today. It was a cheap dig. Anyways, my computer froze when I was trying to go through the finish order. So, like I said, Larson first, Bowman second, Wallace third, Briscoe fourth, Hamlin fifth, Busher first forward, finished sixth, Allmendinger with a great top 10 in seventh, Tyler Reddick eighth, Ryan Preece with a nice finish in ninth, Justin Haley with a top 10 finish, Zane Smith 11th. Like we had a bunch of guys up front for the end of this race that we don't normally see. That's good for the sport. It's good for competition. Then we get to 12, William Byron, 13, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano salvaged a 14th place finish. Eric Jones, 15th, Noah Gragson, 16th, Josh Berry, 17th, Chase Elliott, 18th, Cindric, 19th. Michael McDowell had a very quiet day, finished 20th. Kyle Busch, 21st, Daniel Suarez, 22nd, John Hunter Nemechek, 23rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 24th, Ty Gibbs, 25th, Brad Keselowski, 6th. Is he ever going to get it going this year? We can only hope so. He's in the twilight of his career. I would hate to see him go out without a final W.
Jack Roush curse.
Ty Dillon, 27th, Cole Coaster, 28th. Seabell, who's struggled a little bit here recently, after a dominating start of the season, finishes 29th. Todd Gillen, 30th. Ross Chastain, 31st. Shane Van Gisbergen, 32nd. Riley Herbst, 33rd. Cody Ware, 34th. JJ Yelly, 35th. Ryan Blaney, 36th. And Carson Hocevar,
His alternator died.
37th.
Yeah,
I never really heard what happened. I just knew he was done.
Okay. Yeah, it was his alternator because he was losing everything in his car. It ended up his alternator was messed up. But with that though, Kyle Larson, 30 wins for Hendrix, so he moves in top 3. So my question to you is, do you think Kyle Larson can get close to Jeff Gordon's record at Hendrick? I think he can get to Jimmy's, whether he either ties it or beats it.
What is Jimmy's and what's Jeff's?
So Jeff's, I believe, is 96, and Jimmy's is 60 or 63. It's one of those.
I would say he gets Jimmy's. I don't know if he can touch Jeff.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I think the competition. I think NASCAR right now is there's too much parity in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Compared to what it used to be. There's just too much parity. And the stage racing changes everything, where, the teams can't just build motors that'll just go for 500 miles nonstop, where they'll just out endure everybody else. So no, I can't see him getting that. No, I can't.
Fair enough.
Jimmy, though, yes. I can see him like 75.
Yeah.
Maybe 80. I mean, if he just goes on and has a season where he gets 7 wins, and another season where he gets another 6, and he never tails off and doesn't have at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
God, he still need to race for another. He's at 30. How many? 30.
He's at 30 for Hendrick Motorsport too.
How long has he been with Hendrick now?
Since 2021, after he had his incident in the iRace in 2020.
Right. Okay. So he's 4 years in. He's already got 30.
Yep, with a championship.
Ooh, hold on. And he's 32?
32.
You know what? I thought he'd been with Hendrix a couple more years than that, so
Nope.
I forgot it was after COVID that he got bumped. You know what? I want to change my answer because now that I've done the math in my head, I could see a world where he gets there. Does he bury Jeff Gordon? No. Could he
Yeah.
get there? Yes. If he's with him, yes. If he stays with Hendrix and Hendrix never tails off, yes. Could he get there? He could get there. He'd be close. 90? I could see 90.
Okay.
But he has to stay at current pace,
Yeah.
which is going to be tough.
Yeah.
But
That's
the dude's
why.
built for it, so he's different. He's an animal.
Yeah, that's why I can't say either. Like, oh, if he gets close to Richard Petty's records, like no one will ever get there because they used to race like 4 times a week or something like that. So it's like you'll never get it. So that's fine. I figure that's the closest he could probably get is Jeff's.
So next week, classic NASCAR track, back to the good old short track, rubbing is racing. Ooh, 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 buddy. Martinsville, here we come.
Whew.
Cookout 400 laps, 210 miles, 3 o'clock on Sunday. It's on Fox Sports 1. And I told my dad wrong. So I got to apologize, Dad. I told him Bristol was the week after Martinsville. I forgot about Darlington. I'm excited for Bristol. You all know it's my favorite track. It's my favorite race. So I jumped ahead and got a little ahead of myself. So Martinsville next week, then Darlington to start April. Then we go to Bristol, and then we go to the High Banks of Talladega. So those are our next 4 races. We get it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. We will be back here. I should be good Sunday night. Should you be good Sunday night?
Yeah.
All right. So let's plan. We'll see you all here next Sunday night after the race, 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern. And then, Aaron, I got asked today by somebody if we would ever do like live react or watch along. And I was like, doing a watch along for a race would be kind of boring. But we could try to do a live react at the end of stages for some race. What would you think about that? And he's gone. That's what he thinks about it. So if you're watching and you asked me about that, that's what Aaron thinks about it. He dipped out. I'm sure he's just having technical difficulties because he was mobile. But thank you, everybody, for coming on tonight, being here. Sorry we were a night later than normal. But Dime Drawer, again, appreciate the drop. Oh, there he's back. So, Aaron, what would you think about doing a live react to some stages at some races?
I'll probably do that. It's cool.
All right, we'll put it on the to-do list, so you guys can look for those on X, YouTube, obviously. They may even show up on Facebook. Who knows? But again, Dime Drawer, thanks for dropping us that name. That is Lou Skunt. Write that down so you got it, Aaron, because you are going to be our detail report. That is SKUNT. LOU is Lou, not LEW. But again, y'all have a fantastic week. God bless y'all. We'll see you next Sunday night at 9 o'clock, I do believe. See you.